Hello, I'm going to be showing you how I made my furniture for a little boy's room based on the same 1930s style that I've been doing for my 1930s Keystone dollhouse. And I'm making the boy's room with some templates, and I'm not copying the cage or the Strombecker furniture, but I'm keeping the spirit of it. And I'm just using up some balsa wood that I've had laying around. And so I'm going to be piecing some things together just to use it. And this is going to be the headboard. And this is a thicker piece of balsa. I can't tell you exactly what the centimeters are on it because I've long ago lost the information, and I don't want to measure it right now. But I'll try to get that information and put it down if I can find it. This actually is 2 pieces. I'm making it a little thicker because I didn't want to have it be quite as thin as the thicker of the 2 pieces. I wanted it to be a little bulkier. So I'm gluing it together and I'll press it down, and when I'm done it won't look like 2 pieces. And I have had these clothespins forever. I got them from Walmart years ago, and I didn't use them because I do dry my clothes outside when the weather allows, and they are just too flimsy, but they're perfect for this because they don't leave any marks on the balsa wood. But you do have to use rather a lot of them, as you can see, but they work really well. So I'm glad I was able to do that, use them up. Now I'm going to make the footboard by using the same template, but I have a mark on the bottom, as you can see, making it shorter but using the same size for the legs. And again, I'm just going to double it up. And I just made these templates out of waste cardboard. I got some vitamins in the mail, and it came in a box that was pretty heavy inside of another box, and so that green stuff was kind of nice to carve up and recycle, and it is coming in handy. And I may make some more of these beds in the future, so it's nice to have the pattern. And I'm just going to trim it up a little bit. Balsa wood's so easy to cut that it's kind of a pleasure to work with. I don't have a way of cutting the harder woods like bass or birch right now. I'm planning on buying a scroll saw at some point so I can use harder wood. And I'll save those 2 little pieces. That's just to show you how thick they are, the different thicknesses. I prefer to use wood glue for things like this because it's sandable. Some of the PVA glues are a little bit rubbery, and trying to sand over them is difficult. Plus, this glue sticks very well. It dries pretty quickly too, which is nice. But it doesn't dry too fast. You can adjust things. You have about a half hour before it starts to set. And you see how easy this furniture is to make. It's very simple. And as I said, I'm not going for realism on the furniture. I'm not trying to make it look really realistic. Now that's the base of the bed where the mattress will go off to the left there. And I used scrap pieces of wood, and I used 1/2-inch foam core, which is pretty stiff stuff. That's what I used to build my little showroom that I made. You saw the furniture before the kitchen that I had set up. And that's what was left over, were a few pieces of that. So I'm just using them up. And I'm going to cover the sides with some more balsa wood to clean it up, make it look more solid. That little ruler I've had for years too, and I actually draw right on it. You can see all the marks. Once in a while I clean it off. But I do eyeball a lot of things as well, which is, not always a good idea, but I like to get stuff done. And these will go on the sides, and then I'll sand those as well to make them flush with the mattress, the base of the bed, so the mattress can go on top. And I did pick out some fabric for the mattress, but I'm going to tea dye it to make it look a little older and blend in with the colors that I'm going to use to paint the furniture for the boys' room. So this is going to be smaller, this furniture, to accommodate the little boy toy doll that I have. And that's dry now. Everything's dry. I let it dry overnight. And I'm going to sand that and make sure it is flush with the base of the bed. That's the other thing I like about balsa wood. It's so easy to sand. And I'm using a fairly fine grit sandpaper here. I think it's either 400 or 600. I think I see a 4 up there. And I'll just go around and smooth it out. I don't worry a lot about glue that oozes out because it sands off fairly easily. And it covers the cracks up too. One of these days I'm going to find some weights that are small enough but heavy enough to use for these. I just have to look around for some. And since I'm fairly new at this, I haven't acquired all the tools that I need really. So I'm going to stick with the simple stuff until I can get the tools to make more complex furniture. I'm going to look at Amazon and see if I can take advantage of their sales right now for a scroll saw. I had one years ago, and in one of our moves, I can't remember if we sold it or it got lost. I just don't know what happened to it. I just don't remember. It was so many years ago. We had one of those big garage sales before one of our moves, and it was probably in 1999. So that's a while ago. Actually, it was in 1999 because that was the year we moved. Yeah, I think we did sell that scroll saw in our garage sale, now that I think about it. And I'm just going to draw a line where the bottom of the mattress goes so the legs will show properly and it'll be even. And I'll just glue that on. Now the ends are flush, there's some pencil mark that showed through, so that's what that gray stuff is. I use a very soft pencil, so it kind of smears around a bit. I'm using pins. These are actually corsage pins to hold it together after gluing. I had a little trouble with this one because that foam core was harder than the balsa wood, much harder. It's foam, but it's very stiff. It's almost like drywall, but lighter weight. And I'm just going to wipe off some of the glue in the cracks there. I was deciding whether I should put a top on it to clean it up further. I have it off to the left there that's cut out, already marked out. And I just I'll see what it looks like after I paint it, and then if it looks like it needs a top on it, I will put the top on. Now, I didn't make that chair. That's a cage chair. Or no, that's Strombacher. I painted it. It was a very small chair. It's a 1/16 size. So it's great for a little boy's room. And I put some decals on it. And the decals came from an antique store. And I put a little soldier on the back of the Revolutionary War soldier on the back of the chair so you could see it. And yeah, there's a lot of big lines in there. And this will take maybe three coats of paint. And I'm using Apple Barrel paint, matte finish, quick drying. I really like this paint. It's very inexpensive too. I found a bunch at a garage sale a while ago. Then there was a sale where I bought it, and then I bought it on Amazon for like 50 cents a bottle, which is a pretty good price. And it is made by Plaid, which is a good paint company. Yeah, I decided, of course, to put this on. I'm just making it fit perfectly so you don't see too much of a crack. I'm just going to glue it right on over the paint. It doesn't matter. It'll stick just fine. It's all water-soluble stuff, so... There, that's going to finish it up. And I'll let that dry and go on to the next thing, which is a little table. He's going to have a little work table in his room where he can play and read books and that sort of thing. And that's the top. And that will be a crossbar that goes between the supports. And I'm just going to make it slightly shorter than the tabletop. And this is one of the side supports. And you can see the indentation there at the bottom where that little bar will go. And I know that the crossbar doesn't look like it's cut very evenly, but I'll sand it down right on the ends to make sure that they stick out at the same length. I do have to be careful how I cut this because balsa wood does split pretty easily. And so I'm trying to avoid any splitting. All right, that fits. And then just clean it up a little bit if there's any pieces sticking out. And I will sand this too. This was so easy to make, this little table. I made up the pattern, but it is based on one that I saw. I'm not sure which doll company made it, but it is from the same time era. And this is just the second one. Just making sure they're the exact same size. Don't want a wonky table. I know some of the older furniture that I have in my home, I struggle with the wonkiness and end up putting little things on the bottom of the feet. Not sure if it's the floor or the table, although some of the things I move around, no matter where I put them, they aren't balanced, so I don't want that to happen here. So I'm going to try really hard to make sure they're exactly the same size. Okay. And those will fit in. I'll glue them. And then I will glue the whole thing together. But see how easy this is. This is just very simple. And one of the sides sticks a little better, but that one is a little loose, so I'm going to put a pin in it, one side of it, just to make sure it stays in there. And I will cut that, I will shave those off at the end to make sure they're even after it dries. And just position this. This glue is very strong, so you can glue things together, and have them stay. But I'm going to put some pins in the top that I will cut off and leave in the wood, so it just gives it a little extra strength. And these are thinner pins, and I'll just put them in and cut them flush with the top of the table. You'll see it as I turn it around. There, just cutting them off. And I'll use those little blue heads for drawer pulls. They seem to make a nice little drawer pull with a seed bead in between the wood and the bead head of the pin. Now I'm making a side table, and I didn't make a pattern for this. I'm just pulling it out of my imagination. I did see side tables similar to the one I'm making, and I just want to make sure that it's the same height as the table, or close to it. Maybe just a little bit shorter. That's the front. I think that'll be the front. It'll look like it has a drawer on it, but none of this furniture will be open, close, except for the toy box that I'm going to make. And I will have to find some hinges for that. I was thinking about making hinges, but I don't know. Maybe I'll look around and see if I can find somebody who's made some nice looking hinges and see how they did it. I suppose I could cut up an old pop can and make it out of that. It's thin enough. Cuts with scissors. But we'll see. I'm just measuring again to see the side pieces. See how I'll put those in. That's the front and the back. I'll just use one piece and then cut it until it fits. And I'll cut it in half, and then I'll fit it so that it goes in between the sides, closes it up into a little box. First, I'm going to glue the front and the back on, and I'll leave a little overlap over the front. And I'm just seeing how this will fit together. I probably should have taken the time to make a pattern, but I don't know, it just seemed like such a simple thing that I just didn't do that. But I know what I would next time I make a side table. I'm going to make a pattern. For the adult bedroom, I'll do that. But I'm just winging it here. I'm just going to finish gluing this together and use some more pins. Using the pins for me is easy, and when you paint it, it just fills the little hole up completely and you don't see a mark. Of course, if you're using hardwoods, this would be impossible to put pins in. Balsa wood's so spongy that it takes the pins really well, and it makes a tight seal if you use the right pins. So there, I'll put that aside. These are going to be the legs. I picked these up at an antique store. There was a It was a brand new pack of these rails, and I'll just cut 4 legs out of this. See how it looks. Just measuring it so it is the proper size. And I'm just going to use my miter plane to cut them. These are hardwood, so they're not easily cut with an X-Acto knife, and I didn't want to saw them because they're so small that I just didn't want to risk splitting them. Well, there they are, and I'll sand them down just to make sure they're flat. I like how it turned out, but I still don't feel I did a proper job on it. Now I'm back to the bed, and I'm going to paint these 2 pieces. The chair fits very well under the table, and will leave room for my little boy doll to sit on. Now, I did re-edit this film so that this actually took place before you saw me painting it once. I'm painting it not again, but this is the first paint job, so it might look a little confusing. But I thought this fit better into the flow of things rather than leaving it up front. And the bottom I'm not going to worry too much about because you won't see it, so I'm not going to cover that with a solid slab of balsa wood like I did on the front top, rather. My voice is a little scratchy. This is very early in the morning that I'm doing this, and had a bit of a sore throat last night, so I'm better this morning, but my voice is scratchy. Just give this a sand all the way around and the top. This film was 2.5 hours long, so I really felt that it was necessary to speed it up. So I hope you can tell what's going on, even though it's pretty fast. I'm just going around with an emery board now and getting in all the little places that the sandpaper doesn't work real well. And I'll carve that little end piece off to make sure it's the same as the other and flatten it out with the emery board. And I'm just smoothing the top down. I use an old paintbrush to brush off the surface of my workspace so I don't have bits of sawdust in the paint. And I'll just paint this a couple of times. And I plan on putting some decals also on the sides. During the 1920s and 30s and early 40s, there was this sort of revival of colonial furniture. And although it wasn't exactly colonial, sometimes it was still kept in the spirit of that early American furniture. So that's what I'm going for this bedroom furniture. It's obviously not real colonial looking, but it has sort of that same feel about it. So the decals seem to fit in with that. And they do kind of look like toy soldiers, so I thought that would be good for a boy's room. Put that aside, and the chair fits very well with that. And now I'm going to finish the side table. First I thought I would put the legs on the outside, but it just didn't have enough room, and I thought, well, maybe if I cut the corners, I can just fit these in and they'll have that decorative element. And I almost did it, and I thought, no, I'm not going to do that. It's going to destabilize it. Now I'm going to make the toy box, which will be a different color. And this is what I really need a hinge for. And this is also very simple. I made a quick template for it and then just measured it out. And that'll be a piece of scrap wood right there. So that will be one side on the end, and that will be the other. So there's a top, 2 long sides, 2 short sides, and the top will go on. I decided not to use that top because it just didn't seem big enough, so I cut another one. And I'm glad I did because that one fit better. And I can use that other piece for something else. I tend to save everything except for shavings. So I have all these bags filled with different size cuttings that I reuse, and they do come in handy, so. And I'm going to pin these in place with my hat pins. Not hat pins, these are corsage pins. Oh, that one isn't. That's actually sewing much thinner. I found that for some reason the corsage pin wouldn't go in the side, but these pins will work fine. I have so many of them. I just oodles and oodles of pins, straight pins, every kind. I do a lot of sewing, so. Sometimes balsa wood can have these little hard pieces in it that, a streak of hardness that a pin won't go through, so that's what was happening here. And there's the sides, so I'm just going to glue those in, pin those as well. Just keep it as square as possible. And when this dries, I will paint both the lid after I sand them. I'll paint both the lid and the box, and then I'll put some small round legs on it. And that's the top. That doesn't get glued on. I just have to find some hinges for that, or make some or something. Now I'm going to remove the pins, it's dry, and sand it all down. I use a paintbrush also to brush off my sandpaper to reuse it as far as possible, and that seems to work pretty well. And I've had this piece of sandpaper going for quite a while now, and it still has plenty of grit on it. After sanding, it just comes right back. Eventually it'll wear out, but it's hanging in there. And just dust it off. I vacuum the floor later. Now I'm going to put these legs on. And these I'm going to make sure this is sanded very carefully on the bottom so it's completely even. And I'm going to glue the legs right onto the bottom. And this glue is, like I said, very sturdy. So I'm not worried about it just snapping off. It won't. Although if children were going to play with this this probably wouldn't be a good idea. Obviously, kids are harder on things than adults most of the time. And I got them on evenly. There's the chair. There's one of the little decals I put on that chair already. I think you've seen that already. And now I'm going to put decals on the bed and the table. These are yellowed with age. I don't know how old they are. They're probably from the 50s, maybe the 60s, early 60s. I'm thinking maybe the 50s because on part of them there's these little stuffed animals that were, very popular during the 50s. And I guess right up into the early 60s they were too, but Now the nice thing is these can be repositioned pretty easily. I wet the board underneath them, and then I was having a little trouble with positioning them, but now they're okay. And I'm going to just put a little eagle between them. Get that guy in there the right way. I know it looks like they have red coats on, but they don't. They actually have blue coats on with red trim. And that one didn't put it on straight, so you have a couple of minutes to get it straight. There it is. Okay, and now I'll do the footboard. Just put one soldier, a different one, on the back. Footboard. There. Okay, well that one's done, and now I'm going to put a sticker, decal on each side of this table on the support. There's one, and there's two. Oh, not yet. I don't know what happened there. I kind of went backwards. Okay, there he is, and there he is. They're the same one. They look like the same exact decal, but that's okay. I'm not putting decals on the nightstand little table. And the knobs on the dresser and the side table will be blue. I am making the dresser in a different video, and also some more toys. And I'll be making wallpaper for his room, curtains, a bedspread, mattress, and pillow. So that'll be a whole different video. I've already started the dresser. It's still drying as I'm doing this video. So that will be next week probably. I might have it out by Monday, I'm not sure. Because we have a holiday coming up in a few days, Thanksgiving. And I have company coming, and I have a lot of cooking to do here on my farm. Someone brought me some venison the other day, and I'm probably going to make something out of that. And we have a turkey, and we'll have all sorts of things with that. Pumpkin pie, apple pie. I made bread for the stuffing, homemade bread to make the stuffing out of. And sweet potatoes. And mashed potatoes and gravy. All the traditional stuff. And I make stuffing with chestnuts. And it's actually a recipe from the 18th century. And I've been making it for years. I have it out of a cookbook that I got years and years ago. So that's been my traditional stuffing with some chestnuts in it. And I'm going to glue these legs on. These are just wooden beads. I've used these before for furniture. I sand them both the bottom and the top to make sure they sit properly. And I'm painting the side table. The glue's nice and hard so that the legs are on there. And that's the front. And he'll have a little lamp as well. I have a little bunny that I'm going to turn into a lamp with a base made out of a button. And it'll have a paper shade. So that's going to be in the next video. This little table took much longer to paint than the table or the bed. Has all those little turned legs, so I had to get the paint in there. I'll have to put a couple coats on that too. That's the front. And I haven't finished the drawer yet, but now I'm going to give this another coat and paint the legs. I have some golden matte varnish there. It's a glaze, actually, that I'm going to put on the furniture when I'm done, but you won't see me do that. I'm just going to give it a coat all over the furniture to make sure that it cures properly, the paint and the decals stay on. And there's the lid. Okay, now they're finished. And there's my little, I've glazed it, our little Revolutionary War soldiers. Looks like he's somebody who has a cannon stuffer. And that's the same decal. And there's the chair I think it's a Strombecker chair, actually. And I painted it because the paint was worn off of it anyway. And thought, well, this is the perfect size for a little boy's bedroom. And that's a drummer. And it will fit under the table. I'm also going to have some children's books on the table. And looks like General George Washington and another soldier, a Minuteman, and another rifleman. Of course, when I was growing up, these kind of images were very popular for boys' rooms. So we're going to stay with the historical theme. And there's a little pin with a seed bead under it, and they're going to be on the dresser, and there's a little drawer front. So that's finished. And this one has an eagle on the front, but there's no hinges. I'll have to figure out what to do. I think I need to give the bottom of this another coat of paint, though. I see some little edges that are not quite filled in, but there it is. It's just a box. Yeah, it needs another coat on the sides. Front looks okay. Well, there's my little guy, and I'll show you how his size is. I'm thinking he's 3 or 4 years old. So he's a little dude. And his buttons match too. And I'll put him in the chair. He fits well on that chair. There's a little climb up on it, but he'll grow. Well, this won't grow, obviously, but you know what I mean. I made it so it looks like he could grow into it for quite a while, the whole bedroom. And there's his bed, and I'll put a pillow and a mattress and a coverlet, and I'll make curtains for the room that match the coverlet. I just have to tea dye the fabric that I'm using to make it blend in a little better and not look so nude. The toys are off to the left there. You can see a pile of them. I'm getting them ready. I have a teddy bear and horses and farm animals and a little barn I'm going to paint. I picked up in an antique store. There he is. Well, thank you so much for watching. I hope that you come back and watch more videos. Please remember to like and subscribe and leave a comment. I really cherish your comments. Well, that's all for today. I'll be back next week with more. Thanks again. Bye-bye.